Alright, so to start my sweatshirt, I am going to open a text box. So I'm just going to come over here to the text, click that, and now we can write our text. So the first font I want to do, and so if you already know the font that you want to use, or like a word in the font, you can just type it up here. So I'm going to use two fonts. I'm going to use this first one here, and it's going to say, sorry, I'm getting over a cold still. It's going to say, hold my drink. Oh wait, I did 2 extra spaces in that. Oops. Hold my drink. So that's going to be the first block of text, and I like to kind of play with my fonts and mix them up a little bit. So this will be my first one here. So it's going to say hold my drink. So this is Berryfield Heavy, and this I believe is from Font Bundles. So my second font I want to use for the second part of this is a skinnier font. So I'm going to use this Skinny Things, and I think this is in Cricut. I think so. So write out the rest of my text. I saw this on something and I was like, oh my god, I've never related more to a quote in my life. So obviously this text here I really need to space out. So there's 2 ways you could do this. You can come up here and increase the space in the words or in the letters. The only reason I don't want to do that for this is because it's just going to space out each individual letter, and I actually don't mind the space in between the letters. I more just want to space out the words. So I'm going to come over here to ungroup, and so basically now I can move all of these around individually, and it's not just like one big block of text anymore. So now I can take the word this and I can scooch it over. I can take the word pet and scooch it over. Oh, I forget, that's one word. And I usually have people comment and they say, you know, you could just do the letter space, and yes, I know that. I just like this way a little bit better. I feel like I can control it better. And sometimes when I try to like do too many things with my like keys on my keyboard, my Mac kind of freaks out. So I'm going to do the same thing to this phrase up here. Just scoot out the letters or the words just a tiny bit just to give it some room. Just get it all how I want it, and I forgot that I wanted to dot 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 after, oops, I wanted to do a dot 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 after this phrase up here. Okay. I just thought this was the cutest little quote ever. It's not my original quote. I am not claiming that it's my original quote. I just thought this was so freaking cute and I had to put it on something. So I'm just gonna make the proportions in this how I want it, and then I'll resize it once I measure my sweatshirt. So right now it's about 19 by 23 or so. So I'm gonna go measure my sweatshirt and we'll see how big I actually need to make this. Okay, so this is my sweatshirt, and so my basic rule of thumb is I really just eyeball kind of like my placement for where I want this to go. So, but you know, from here to here is about 22.5 inches, and then I would probably want it to be about 12 inches high. So I think if I did it from about here to here long, that would work. So about 14 inches long and about 12 inches, well, 12 inches long and then I guess 14 inches wide, give or take a few. Really, I'm just gonna do whatever kind of fits my mat. And as for the color vinyl I'm going to use, or HTV, I think I'm just going to do plain white on this. I think that would just look, I think that would look cute. It's just, for me, it's just a casual sweatshirt that I'm going to wear around the house or whatever. So, in this sweatshirt I just got at Walmart. It's just a Fruit of the Loom extra large, just so I can kind of like be casual with it. So, now I'm going to go back to Design Space and finish sizing it, and then we can start to cut. Alright, so as I said, I think I'm going to do this about 14 inches long and about 12 inches high. So that looks pretty good to me. Maybe I'll scoot this down just a smidge. And I think that looks good as far as placement. I can't tell if I like it with these dots or without. What do you guys think? Or maybe just one period would maybe look better. Let's see, with one period. I think with one period looks better. What do you guys think? And then maybe I can move the other period down here. Alright, so now that we have the image how we want it sized and all that, I want it to cut out in this, this is how I want it to cut out, so then I can just easily weed it and heat press it. So I'm going to select everything. So all I did was drag everything, or just drag my cursor over all the text. Sometimes you'll miss like something like out on the edge, so I just want to make sure I get everything. So you can see now everything's selected. So I'm going to come over here and hit weld. And what basically this is going to do is, you can see now this is one image. So when we click make it, it's all going to cut out together. So I'm going to come over here to make it. And it looks like I do need to, shorten this a little bit because it's too big for the mats. So how about we'll bring it up to 11.5 inches. That should be good to cut. Alright, so now you can see it's going to all cut together. So before I do anything else, we're going to mirror this because I'm cutting this out of HTV. So we're going to mirror this, and I'll show you why once we cut everything out. So it's going to cut backwards. So we're going to hit continue. We're going to select our maker. Alright, so now we can find our material. So I'm just going to use regular iron-on. If you're using glitter, do glitter iron-on. If you're doing, you know, holographic, you can come up here and browse to find your custom vinyl. But I'm just doing regular iron-on. So I'll switch you guys over to the, so this is, remember this is telling you make sure mirror is turned on, and the iron-on is going to be facing shiny side down. So I'll show you what that means. I'm going to switch you guys over to the camera now. So now our Cricut is ready to go. We have our mat. So now we're going to put our HTV on the mat. So I'm just using this plain white HTV. The trick here, again, is we're going to put, so you could see that this top side is shiny and this side is kind of more matte. We're going to place our HTV shiny side down. And I actually cleaned my mats, so these should be sticking a little bit better than they have been in previous videos. And so I could definitely trim this or do this ahead of time, but I'm just gonna roll to the amount that I need. Use my scraper. And I've gotten questions on where I got this scraper. This is just one I stole from Joe's art class supply box kind of thing. Make sure it's scraped down really good. Like I said, my mats are pretty old, so they have lost a little bit of their mojo, so to speak. All right, so I'm just gonna move this, and now I can cut what I don't need. So I'll put this back. See, I'm trying to make an effort to keep my craft area organized to the best of my ability. All right, so now this is scraped down to our mat pretty good. Well, to the best of my ability. It's a little touch and go up here, honestly, but I'm just gonna make sure I keep an eye on it as I put it in the machine. So remember, shiny side down. Actually, I'm just gonna throw some painter's tape on this because I can tell these corners up here are, they've just seen their better days. So I'm just gonna take a little piece of painter's tape and just tape that down. I have not gotten new mats in so long. It is aggressive. Okay, so I just put some painter's tape on the edge just to make sure these corners stay down. So now I'm going to load my mat by hitting this blinking button. And I'm going to pull my mat out, or my machine out, just because it doesn't have enough room back here. And once this starts blinking, like it is right now, we can cut. Alright, so once your machine is done cutting, you can unload your mat. All you need to do is just hit this little arrow guy so we can close our machine. We're done with that for now. So now I'm going to take this off of our mat. All right, and so now actually there's a little bit of extra HTV here that I'm gonna save. The only thing with HTV sometimes when you can't see it all, see the cut all that well. Oh my god, especially glitter HTV. Oh, that is difficult to see what exactly you're doing. So this is just extra HTV that I just don't want to waste. So now basically, since this is all one big chunk of text, all I need to do is just pull up a corner. This is how I like to do it anyway. Just pull up a corner and just start pulling. Oh, see, I cut a little bit of the bottom of that S, but that's all right. So basically, I'm just pulling away the excess, so we'll only be left with the letters that we want to iron on our design. Glitter HTV is like the best to do this with. It like comes off so easily, and it's like the most satisfying thing ever. But regular HTV is good too. This Easyweed is literally just a dream to work with. Alright, so we're almost... Okay, so we got out most of that HTV, so now I'm just going to go back in here and weed out the middles of these letters that we missed. There's nothing worse than ironing on something, you know, working super hard and then realizing you forgot to weed out the middle of a O or a B or something. That is just so disheartening. But I have never used it, but there's apparently this like spray or this stuff that you can put onto it and it'll like just pull the HTV right up. I've never used it, but I heard it works like a dream. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of all these scraps, and I have my heat press over here heated up to 305 degrees. So I'll press this for about 10 seconds or so. You could totally do this with an iron. I have pressed mini shirts, mini sweatshirts, just using an iron. So definitely heat press is not necessary. It's just what I have handy. So I'm going to get my sweatshirt ready to go, and then we will press this. All right, so we have our sweatshirt, and I don't know if this is the best angle, but this is kind of like the best I could do with what I have right now. So a couple of things. First, whenever you're heat pressing anything like a sweatshirt that has these seams, you want to make sure that that everything is laid as flat as possible and you're not ironing over these seams, because what I've noticed, if I ever have like a crease underneath or something that's seamed like this, it tends to like burn, and it'll I don't know if burn is the right word, but it makes it like white and it just looks weird. So you just want to make sure you have whatever you're heat pressing laid as flat as possible. And that's pretty much it. And as far as placement, like I said, I kind of just eyeball it. You know, I know that there's some, like, what are they called? Like little things online that say like 2 inches from the neck for, you know, a large or whatever. I honestly just do what I think looks good. I don't really go by any of those, but those are also very helpful too if you just, you know, don't even know where to start. But I kind of just eyeball it, and as long as it's relatively centered and even, you know, I'm happy. I don't know what this is here. I can't tell if it's fuzz or HTV, but I'm gonna get it off. I think it's just a piece of fuzz. What the heck? And so that brings me to another tip is when you're pressing, you want to make sure that you don't have any stray HTV on your, I'm coming, my heat press is yelling at me. You want to make sure you don't have any stray HTV, like a little scrap here or over here, because once you press it, it's pressed for the most part. So I'm just gonna do my best to place this. Can you guys see that? Okay. Okay. And I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to set this aside for a second, and I'm just going to press this a little bit just to kind of get some of these wrinkles out. Obviously this has been folded up for quite some time, this sweatshirt here. So I'm just gonna, you know, heat press is a really great iron because I do not iron anything ever or buy anything that needs to be ironed. All right, so now all I'm gonna do is just place this here, make sure it's relatively centered. Pretty close, so I'm good with that. So I just have a collection of parchment paper. I think this one's a little bit bigger. So I'm just gonna, parchment paper isn't necessarily necessary, but I like to use it just to kind of protect everything. So now that we have this where we want it, I'm gonna take my heat press, and since this is so big, I'm gonna have to do it in a couple sections. So I'm gonna put my press down, press the green button, and just hold this for about 15 seconds. And I'm giving it some good pressure, as you can see. And I'm not moving it around, I'm just pressing. So I'm gonna go do the other side now and just press, give it some pressure. You can see I'm working out. It's kind of like a little workout too. All right, and now I'm gonna do this bottom portion. Okay, so now we can remove our parchment paper, and in theory this should all just peel up quite nicely. All right, so there you have it. We have our finished sweatshirt. Super cute, super easy. And yeah, so I hope this was helpful for you. If you felt like it was, make sure you like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. I try to answer all the questions that I can. And happy crafting!